foundation doesn't match my chest. It's alright, we're gonna roll with it. Hi everyone, it's Spirituality. Thank you all so much for tuning into my first YouTube video. I am so excited to get this channel up and running. You guys have been telling me for forever now to start a YouTube channel. So, I'm ready, it's time, let's get this started. So I figured for my first video it was only appropriate to tell you guys a little bit of my story. How I decided to go on the Christian witch path. I've explained it a little bit here and there on TikTok, but there's only so much that you can tell in a 1 or even 3-minute video. So I thought that I would sit down in my new college dorm and just tell you guys a little bit, like I said, about my story, how I got started, and maybe it can inspire some of you guys to get started on the Christian witch path as well. So with all of that being said, here's the tea. So I was born in a small town in northern Indiana. Or it was small at the time. It's grown significantly since then. But at the time, it was a very small town. My parents divorced when I was very young. I actually don't even really remember it. And shortly afterwards, my dad joined the Church of Satan. Little did I know, and would eventually climb up the hierarchy to be one of the higher-ups in the church. But that's a story for another time. I lived with my mom, and I was raised in the Christian church. And all of the churches that I went to for all of my life were very charismatic. And everyone thinks different things when they hear the word charismatic, but basically when I was about 2 years old, my mom took me to church, and we had people at the churches who we referred to as prophets. And one of these prophets came to my mom and told her that I was a seer, that I was very spiritually gifted, that I would be able to see and even communicate with angels and demons. And the church background that I grew up in, that was encouraged. Not so much talking to demons, but seeing and talking to angels was encouraged. Receiving visions or divine messages from the Christian God only was encouraged. So in that respect, you could say that a lot of my spiritual gifts developed very early because I was encouraged to utilize them. My guardian angel, who I still work with to this day, first appeared to me when I was 8 years old, and I actually thought that she was my imaginary friend. And then one day I outgrew imaginary friends and went, wait a minute, you're still here. And the rest is history. I'll go more in depth on that another time, and if you guys want me to make more videos about what it's like working with angels or contacting your specific guardian angel, or multiple guardian angels, some people just have one, some people have many, everyone's different. But if you want me to make videos about that, let me know in the comments. And as most children do, I collected rocks that I thought were cool and seashells and whatnot. And I collect rocks today too, just a little bit different ones. And like most kids, I wanted to have superpowers. I pretended that I could make the wind move, or whenever there was a thunderstorm, I pretended that I was the one that caused the storm. And little did I know that once I got older, I would actually be able to do very similar things. In the town that I grew up in, the only people that you really encounter with witchy or pagan beliefs that aren't to do with Christianity are really, you only find the closeted kids in middle school and high school, and same goes with queer people. So I went to middle school and I started making friends with queer people, and it was around this time that I realized myself that I was queer, which is a story for another time, but that was kind of when I began to question some of the beliefs that I grew up with. It's also around this time that I made friends with a girl who was a witch. I'm pretty sure her entire family practiced, if I remember correctly. I know that she was a devotee of Diana, and I think the rest of her family was as well, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was around that time that I was beginning to realize, like, man, a lot of this stuff that I was told was evil isn't. These people worship this goddess, but they're just normal people, just like everyone else. They welcome me into their home, they feed me, they let me stay there. And she was one of my best friends for a really long time. She ended up being kind of a awful person, but it wasn't because she was a witch, it was just because she was an awful person. But that was my first real exposure to witchcraft. Then, I joined Tumblr. And I'm sure you all can see where this is going. Now, to be honest with you guys, when I joined Tumblr, I had no idea what it was. I'm gonna be very real with you guys. I only joined Tumblr so that I could follow Chris Motionless. I love him. But that was the reason I joined. Eventually, I figured out what Tumblr actually was and how it worked, and I followed, other blogs besides those having to do with Motionless and White. And you can find lots of witchcraft content on Tumblr to this day, but there was a period in time where there was like a witchcraft boom on Tumblr. And I joined Tumblr kind of like just before the boom really hit. And I was exposed to that kind of content. And I had so many questions and I wanted to learn more. And I followed witchy blogs and I would look at, how to cast spells. And I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is real. Like there are people who actually cast spells, who actually do magic, and I had so many mixed feelings about it, because part of me wanted so badly to do those things myself, but I still had it ingrained in my mind that these things were evil, and that they were something that I needed to stay away from. I grew up in a family where I was not allowed to watch Wizards of Waverly Place, a Y7 rated show on Disney Channel, because my family was afraid that it would encourage witchcraft. And now I'm a witch, so we can see how that went. So I sort of just admired from afar, but I didn't really partake in any of it. Tumblr also kind of misled me in some ways. It made me think that you had to be born a witch, and so I wondered if maybe I was born a witch, because I had been told all my life that I had all of these spiritual gifts and that I saw the world differently, and on and on and on. But despite my curiosities, I continued to resist it because I was scared. Even as I got older into high school and college, and my boyfriend can attest to this, I would look at the witchcraft books in Barnes and Noble with intrigue and fear. I would pick one up like it was imminently about to explode, and then I would read just the back. I wouldn't open it because, I thought the spirits would fly out of the book or something. I would read the back, and I would want to look through it. I'd be so curious, and then I would just put it back because I was scared. This is evil. And so, yeah, that was kind of how I looked at witchcraft for a really long time. But I still just had this urge and this pull towards it, and so I started doing like spooky things, I guess, in my own independent worship in Christianity, so that I could feel like I was doing witchy things. Like I would dim the lights and put on really kind of like ominous meditation music and pray to Jesus, and little did I know that that was Christian witchcraft. I would light candles. I set up my first altar in my college dorm my sophomore year. At my school, we don't have little like one-room dorms. They actually give us little apartments. And so in the living room of my apartment at the time, I had this table, and I set up my gold cross that you guys have seen in my past altar videos, and some like fake flowers and fake candles and stuff, and I would dim the lights, and I would kneel in front of it, and I would pray to Jesus. And for a while, that kind of gave me that like spooky satisfaction. But that only lasted so long before I was just like, man, I'm really intrigued by witchcraft, but I don't want to give up my relationship with Jesus. Because even though I had some problems and questioned some things with organized religion, which I still do to this day, I never felt like I didn't belong with Jesus. Despite my queer identity, despite my pull towards witchcraft, I never felt like I didn't belong with Jesus. I felt like I didn't belong with religion. But I didn't want to give up my relationship with Jesus, even though I felt this pull towards witchcraft. So one day, I honestly don't even really know what came over me, but I just decided to Google, are there Christian witches? And y'all will never believe what I found. There's lots of Christian witches out there. I found so much. I found the official Christian Witches website. I found blogs. I found books, authors, conventions, everything that you can think of. Mind you, this was pre-COVID, so that's why there were conventions. But I also found blog posts, like, there's this Christian witch convention happening in Salem, and they're misleading people from Jesus, and this is the devil, and it must be stopped. So even though I was relieved to find that there were more people like me, I was still so scared because I was like, man, what if they're wrong? What if they are being misled? I didn't know what to do. And so again, I pushed it aside a little while longer. Now, I grew up in a very, I guess you could say, natural medicine-based family. There's some pros and cons to that. I'll make that a story for another time. But I grew up very knowledgeable on healing herbs, essential oils, etc. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can just mix these herbs and oils together in the name of Jesus. It was Christian witchcraft, I just didn't know it at the time. And again, just tried to use that to suffice, especially once COVID did hit and I had to leave my college campus and go home. That's kind of what I did to hold myself over, I guess. And then, the thing that changed it all, I found witch talk. And it was completely by chance. I did not have TikTok at the time. And I had never really looked at witchy videos on YouTube before, but for some reason, I opened YouTube, and on the recommended page was a witch talk compilation. And I just couldn't resist, so I clicked it, and I watched it, and my eyes were opened. Now, I will always preach that TikTok, witch talk, or social media in general should not be your only source of research. Yes, you can learn things from social media, but you should always fact check with other sources, cross-reference, okay? But at the time, TikTok was kind of my only resource. And I have since learned that some of the things that I first learned on TikTok were wrong, but for the most part, it was very useful to me. I learned about other deities. I learned about people who don't consider themselves Christian, but they still work with angels. I learned that not all demons are evil. I learned how to make spell jars, just things of that nature that really just pulled me in. But most importantly, I found other Christian witches on TikTok, and this led me to read books about Christian witchcraft. I always recommend Path of the Christian Witch by Adelina St. Clair, and I'll put that in the description below so that you guys can find that as well. Also, the author Valarie, who writes books about Christian witchcraft, and I believe runs the official Christian Witch website. Those will all be in the description as well. And this is kind of why it's difficult for me to answer the question, how long have you been practicing? Because in some ways, you could say that I've been practicing since age 2, when I was encouraged to enhance my spiritual gifts when it came to receiving visions or communing with angels and things like that. I also have a lot of knowledge on herbs and essential oils, but lots of other things I am still just kind of beginning with. I then took it upon myself to learn about other figures in Christianity that did magic or that just maybe weren't what I thought they were. For example, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, Yahweh's wife, Asherah, Sophia from the Gnostic tradition. It was around this time that I accepted the call to be a Christian witch. And I started making TikTok videos of my own. If you've been with me since the beginning, you'll know that I used to wear a mask, but now that the fact that I do witchcraft is kind of out to the world and my family now. I don't wear a mask anymore. Again, that's a story for another time, if ever. And my first video on TikTok that I guess you can say blew up was my video called Did Jesus Have a Wife?, where I divulged in the theory that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married and had children together. It had 100,000 views overnight, and I gained like 10,000 followers overnight, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try and be a witch talker. And at the time of me filming this, I have no idea what my follow count is gonna be when I upload this, but at the time of filming this, I have 131,000 followers on TikTok. And I love it. I love being able to talk with you guys about different belief systems. I love being able to give people comfort about Jesus, because a lot of people see Jesus as this stern, hateful figure that's here to judge you, and he's not. And I love being able to give people that kind of knowledge and comfort. So, what's next? Well, I will always be working with who I call my main five, who are Yahweh, Yeshua, Asherah, and Sophia, as well as my guardian angel. They will always be with me, but sometimes they might take a little bit of a step back as I work with other deities. I'm currently working with Lilith, who will be with me for a long time, I feel. And the Morrigan, who will be here a while, but she's definitely temporary. And then in the fall, I will begin working with Aries, who will also be very temporary. I'm also going to continue with content creation on TikTok, on YouTube. I want to start doing more posts on Ko-Fi. I want to start a Patreon. I want to further build my shop. I have so many ideas for products on my shop, you guys. And I'm really excited to really get that going. I'm gonna have a few more YouTube videos kind of pre-recorded just so that I have time to get other things going in between videos, but overall, I want to know, what do you guys want to see? What YouTube videos do you guys want to see from me? What TikTok videos do you guys want to see from me? What kind of tiers would you be interested in if I made a Patreon? I want to know all of the things. So just thank you all so much for tuning in to my first video. There will be many more to come. I want to try, emphasis on the word try, to upload YouTube videos once a week on anything you guys want. Let me know what you want me to talk about, and I will do it for y'all. So thank you all so much, and blessed be. Bye.